Hello and welcome to Speedy Medical. In this video, we are going to take on the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and primarily we'll discuss the follicular lymphoma. But before we start the follicular lymphoma, I would recommend you to watch the video in which I have discussed the basics of lymphoma and what are the main differences between the Hodgkin's and the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So without wasting time, let's start the video. As you already know that these lymph nodes, they consist of what are called as the afferent lymphatics, which will bring the lymph into the lymph node, and the efferent lymphatics that will take out the lymph from the lymph node. And within the lymph node we have areas which are designated as cortex, paracortex and the medulla. The cortex, it is the outermost portion of the lymph node, and within the cortex we have predominantly the B cells which are arranged in the form of follicles. So there are numerous follicles which are present within the cortex. If we talk about the paracortex is the area which is just deeper to the cortex and it consists of predominantly the T cells. So this is the area of the paracortex. And the medulla is the innermost area, and in this medulla the plasma cells are present which have been matured in the cortex and paracortex, and also there are some specific cells like macrophages, histiocytes, etc. So I will write the plasma cells, they are found in the medulla. Now what happens is that due to some reason, due to some mutation, there occurs the neoplastic proliferation of the cells in the cortex. These cells are predominantly the B cells, so as a result they will form numerous follicles within the cortex, and this results in what is called as the follicular lymphoma. Now since in this lymphoma there are various follicles, therefore it is called as follicular lymphoma. Now you might be thinking, what is the pathogenesis of this follicular lymphoma, like how this follicular lymphoma is driven. So basically in the follicular lymphoma there occurs a characteristic mutation which is called as the T1418 translocation. So there is a mutation which is called as translocation 1418. Now let's understand this translocation. Now on the 18th chromosome we have a gene for a protein which is called as the BCL2 protein. Now you might have heard or read about this protein. Basically the BCL2 protein is an anti-apoptotic protein, which means that it will prevent the cell against the apoptosis. Now this BCL2 protein on the 18th chromosome, it will translocate to the 14th chromosome on a special locus which is called as IG heavy chain locus. That means the gene on this locus was designated to produce the heavy chains of the immunoglobulin, but now the BCL2 has translocated to that locus. Now as a result of the translocation of BCL to that locus, there will be increased production of BCL2 because on that locus the gene which is present is normally overexpressed. Now as a result of the increased level of BCL2 within the cells, these cells will not undergo apoptosis, and therefore there will be neoplastic proliferation of those cells, and as a result of this we will get the follicular lymphoma. So this is the basic pathogenesis of the follicular lymphoma. Now if we talk about the clinical features of follicular lymphoma, the patients, they generally present with painless lymph adenopathy. So the patients will have painless lymph adenopathy. Now if we talk about the diagnosis it can be made by histology and immunophenotyping. If we take on the histology of the lymph node in case of follicular lymphoma, it will have numerous follicles in the cortex, and the follicles will resemble the follicles which are present in the normal lymph node. But there is a very important concept over here, that in case of follicular lymphoma there occurs the distortion of normal architecture of the lymph node. So there will occur the distortion of the normal architecture of the lymph node. That means you will not be able to differentiate the paracortex and the medulla. All over the lymph node only you will get follicles and follicles with the germinal centers. Now if we take on the immunophenotyping, so via the immunophenotyping we can make out the various types of receptors which are present on those cells, and since these are B cells, the specific receptors of the B cells like the CD19 and CD20, they are present. Also in this case Since the B cells, they are naive B cells, therefore they have additional receptor which is called as the CD5. Normally CD5 is a receptor which is found on the T cell, but in case of naive B cells, in case of the follicular lymphoma, the CD5 receptors is also present in addition to CD20, CD19 and CD10. So this is all about the follicular lymphoma. If we talk about the treatment is not given to all the patients because they are asymptomatic. For the patient who are symptomatic, the treatment is rituximab, which is an antibody or a monoclonal antibody against the CD20 receptor. So this was the whole idea of the follicular lymphoma. I hope you like this video. For more videos like this, do subscribe to our YouTube channel.